After the melodrama over the suspected Chinese spy balloon a week ago, the U.S. has now shot down 3 more unidentified objects over North America that the White House said pose very real threats to air traffic, leading to wild speculation about what those objects could be, and of course, criticism from Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. Okay, guys. Something very weird is going on. And no, I'm not talking about those ads for Jesus during the Super Bowl. Jesus doesn't need to advertise during the Super Bowl. The guy gave one sermon on a mount 2,000 years ago, and everybody's still talking about him. You know who should charge $7 million for a 30-second spot? Mounts. Also, please don't tell me Jesus was advertising his new streaming service, because I'm not sure I can afford to get Messiah Plus, while at the same time, I'm worried that I can't afford not to. Now is not a good time to launch a new streamer, especially since you're going to have to compete with Satan's streaming service, Tubi. Only the devil himself would think it's a good idea to spend millions of dollars to trick me into thinking I sat on my remote. Incidentally, the group that ran those Jesus ads is tied to efforts to curb LGBTQ rights and ban medication abortion. So I guess when they say he gets us, the us has a big old asterisk on it. Anyway, the weird thing that's been happening is the skies over America suddenly turning into that carnival game Balloon Pop. 3 mysterious objects have been identified and shot down over North American airspace in as many days, and officials have many more theories than answers about what's going on.
The U.S. military shooting down 3 mysterious flying objects in just 3 days, and now the White House is under growing pressure to answer some basic questions. What are they? Where did they come from? Were these Chinese spy drones or something else?
U.S. officials described it as an octagonal structure with strings hanging off, and its path and altitude raised concerns. While it wasn't considered a military threat, the Pentagon says it had potential surveillance capabilities, and a top general says they're considering all options.
Not even the pilots apparently were really able to identify what they saw. Those pilots, we have learned, have given very conflicting accounts of what they actually experienced, with some pilots saying that the object interfered with the plane's sensors, other pilots saying that they didn't really experience that, other pilots saying that when they looked at the object, they could identify no identifiable propulsion system.
Okay, wait, I'm sorry, it was octagonal? It had strings hanging off it, it had no identifiable propulsion system, and it interfered with the plane's sensors? That sounds like what a stoner who didn't see a UFO would describe it as. There were strings? As far as I can tell, there are 3 possibilities here. It's a foreign adversary spying on us, it's aliens, or there's a dude in Montana with a remote control in his hands absolutely his pants right now. Hey, honey, you have fun flying your new drone? Actually, dear, I realized that you were right, and it is a dumb hobby, so I sold it. I sold it last week, in fact. Also, if anyone from the FBI knocks on the door, tell them you saw aliens in the sky. The details of what pilots have seen in the skies above North America are just downright bizarre. For example, officials have used a particular car, a Volkswagen Beetle, to describe the rough size of the object shot down Friday in Alaska and Saturday in Canada. I swear to God, if this is a viral marketing campaign for a Herbie the Love Bug reboot, I am gonna be psyched. I love me some Herbie. Sue me. But I actually think the Volkswagen comparison is a good thing. There's no better sign aliens come in peace than showing up in a Volkswagen Bug. They're probably hippie aliens with long white ponytails. And if we talk to them, they'd say, hey, man, we're here to teach you a new way to make water. But do we listen? No, we just blow them out of the sky while they utter their final words. Bummer, man. We were gonna bring the glaciers back. In fact, the Air Force general who's in charge of NORAD, the military organization that protects American and Canadian skies, specifically would not rule out aliens when directly asked.
This is for General Van Herk. Because you still haven't been able to tell us what these things are that we are shooting out of the sky, that raises the question, have you ruled out aliens or extraterrestrials? And if so, why? Because that is what everyone is asking us right now.
Thanks for the question, Helene. I'll let the intel community and the counterintelligence community figured that out. I haven't ruled out anything at this point. We continue to assess every threat or potential threat unknown that approaches North America with an attempt to identify it.
Thanks.
Thanks? I'm sorry, the general in charge of North American aerospace defense says there might be aliens flying above us, and there are just no follow-up questions? Yeah, some people are saying that the aliens are here and they intend to enslave us underground and steal our women. I'm not ruling anything out. Cool, thanks. That's how exhausted journalists are from the past 8 years of nonstop crisis. Psychotic president, attempted coup, land war in Europe, and a global pandemic. We hear about aliens and we're all just like, all right, well, let us know if the situation changes. How much time we'd have to evacuate and whatnot. I mean, sure would like it to make it to the season finale of Love Island before the old wah, 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 wah. Now, it turns out there's actually a much more mundane potential explanation for why we're suddenly finding more random stuff floating in the skies above us. After the Chinese spy balloon, the military basically widened their antenna to identify more objects than they usually would. According to the Washington Post, sensory equipment absorbs a lot of raw data and filters are used so humans and machines can make sense of what is collected. But that process always runs the risk of leaving out something important. We basically opened the filter, as a U.S. official added, much like a car buyer unchecking boxes on a website to broaden the parameters of what can be searched. Also, if you're thinking about buying a car, maybe wait a few weeks, because based on what these objects turn out to be, our roads may be obliterated. Thanks. Although personally, I would like to know, why are there filters in the first place? Shouldn't NORAD be able to detect abnormal objects with surveillance capabilities? How many of these have we missed so far? I mean, on one hand, the explanation is a relief. On the other hand, it feels like they're saying, don't freak out about these. They've been in the skies forever. We just didn't notice them. Be they from China or outer space, one thing is clear. They know every single thing about us by now. So obviously, it seems like there are very likely some less dramatic explanations for this strange activity. NORAD widened its filters, so it's just detecting more air traffic than usual. Or maybe it's a foreign adversary spying on us in the way that all global superpowers spy on each other. And maybe it's aliens. I mean, it can't be a coincidence this happened the same week Senator Rick Scott was in the news for trying to cut Social Security. Mothership, I need a distraction. Release the Volkswagens. But I gotta say, I never thought I would say this. This is one time I kind of wish Donald Trump was still president, just for like 1 hour. Because if it was aliens, he would blurt it out instantly. I mean, can you imagine the tweet? Everyone would be like, is it Russia? Is it China? And Trump would be like, it's aliens, folks. Little green men, short, are spying on us, just like Obama spied on me during my very successful campaign. Not nice, anyway, watch out for lasers. Also, I would give anything to hear Donald Trump say the word extraterrestrial. He'd do that thing where he says it wrong, and instead of correcting himself, he would just say it right, like both are acceptable. The visitors are extraterrestrial and extraterrestrial. If aliens are here and we're either way, just give me the Trump speech. Good evening, my fellow Americans. Although we won't be Americans for long, I can't imagine maps are going to mean much in a couple of hours. I come to you tonight to say we've made contact with some extra bad guys. They're from space. They're extra bad, and they're not like Star Wars aliens. And I would know because I visited Skywalker Ranch. 1982, I was with George Lucas and his little trash can, R2-Me2. And this furry little guy came up to me, walking up to me, tough guy, strong guy. Tears pouring down his furry face, and he said to me, I said, I'll never forget what he said. He said, Mr. Trump, sir, yub-nub. Today, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre declared that it is almost certainly not aliens.
There is no indication of aliens or extraterrestrial activity with these recent takedowns.
Okay, but that's definitely what the White House would say in a movie about an alien invasion. 30 minutes later, cut to Joe Biden personally fighting an alien on the roof of the White House. It would give Biden a chance to utter one of those iconic movie president lines, "Get off my stairs!" about? We were trying to bring back the polar bears. So the U.S. Air Force has shot down 3 unidentified objects in as many days, which, by the way, was exactly what Republicans demanded when the Chinese spy balloon floated across American airspace for a few days. They wanted it shot down immediately. So I guess now that Biden is taking their advice, they're going to line up to congratulate him. And I'm just kidding. They're whining yet again.
The American people have seen Joe Biden in the first 2 years. He has failed to secure the southern border. Now they're beginning to get concerned that he can't secure our airspace.
It's a whole bunch of radio silence, tap dancing, and equivocation from the Biden administration. And you know, we shouldn't be surprised. Things have been a disaster since they took control 2 years ago.
This administration is refusing to say what is happening. What are these objects? What are these crafts? Who is directing them? How are they getting here? What is their mission?
I think it shows our lack of transparency by this administration. You know, the first balloon they shot down after it had traversed our entire country. They claimed it was for safety. And obviously, they could have dropped the thing in Montana. They're more likely to hit some guy with a mullet and a tank top on Myrtle Beach than they were to hit somebody in Montana.
All right, first of all, if a guy with a mullet and a tank top on Myrtle Beach did get hit with a UFO, I'm pretty sure that dude would be thrilled. Whoa, all my exes are finally gonna believe me. Hey, Barbara, it's Jerry Joe. Did you see me on the news? Who's laughing now, Barbara? Why is Stephen Miller on TV talking about this or any subject? He sounds like the guy from the sci-fi movie who would be in the Oval Office telling the president to nuke the aliens immediately while a bunch of scientists beg for more time. We must nuke this unidentified aircraft immediately in order to establish American sovereignty and superiority over our airspace. Sir, we're pretty sure it's just a birthday balloon. It has a Paw Patrol on it. We must show the Paw Patrol that they are not the law in this country. We are. The White House held a briefing to offer more details today. But I will say, I wouldn't mind hearing a little more from Biden. When he was asked at the White House about the object shot down over Alaska, this is all he had to say.
Do you have anything to say about the object shot down over Alaska, Mr. President?
That's it? Can you give us a little more info? Unidentified objects are getting shot down in the skies above the U.S. like a game of duck hunt, and Biden's playing it close to the vest like a grandpa at a family reunion when grandmas were counting how they met. You know, your grandfather was quite the Casanova back in the day. He took me out to Lover's Cliff in his Stingray. Hey, that's not for them to hear. Let's just say it was a success. The lack of concrete information has left a vacuum for conspiracy nuts to run wild. For example, over the weekend, Earth's Marjorie Taylor Greene listed off a bunch of insane hypotheticals for what could have been inside the Chinese spy balloon and recounted yelling at military officials during a congressional briefing about it.
You sat by and allowed this Chinese spy balloon that could have contained a bioweapon like COVID. It could have contained a nuclear bomb, an EMP attack, or hypersonic missiles. I said, you allowed this to go across the country, and then you want to stand up here and give us our excuses, your excuses on why you didn't shoot it down because you're gathering intelligence, or you didn't want to risk endangering anyone's lives. I said, that is the biggest bunch of bull.
Yeah, the balloon could have contained a nuclear bomb, which is why you should have shot a missile at it. Everyone knows that's how you safely disarm a nuclear weapon directly above a densely populated area. Missiles cancel out nuclear bombs just like the reverse card in Uno. What else does she think could have been inside this balloon? There could have been bioweapons, missiles, a nuclear weapon, or even worse, a bunch of middle school textbooks that teach accurate history. So it's a mysterious situation. We don't have many details. There's a bunch of possible explanations. It's obviously quite unlikely that it's aliens. Although, if it is aliens, Republicans want them shot down immediately, even if it means they land on a farm in Montana in the middle of a
bunch of
This has been a closer look.